Probably a couple days before we found out that we were going to have our first Ebola patient, we had a meeting with all the executives across the organization, and one of the first things we decided was who was going to be the singular point of contact for all information that flowed to the media, whether it be traditional or social media, and I turned out to be that person. Right away, the best part about this was we had almost a plan in place before it ever even started because we were very familiar with the unit to begin with. It was opened in 2005, and since then we had done numerous media stories. We've been in there to see drills, we've taken photos, we've taken video. As media professionals and media relations professionals, we were already familiar with the unit, so we had already compiled photos necessary and videos necessary to disseminate to the media when they had questions about what this unit was all about and what kind of a facility it was that this patient would be coming to. Having a disaster plan in place is something that we talk about all the time, and not necessarily specific to Ebola, but it's kind of a way that we operate in times where there may be some sort of crisis or disaster. And the things that we do are establishing a point of contact for the media, letting the media know that there will be one person to contact, how you can contact that person, where that person is, to let them know that we're going to be providing information at regular intervals, to be in one place so they know if they're on site somewhere where they need to be so they're not wandering somewhere else. We also have a really good relationship with all of our doctors, not just in the biocontainment unit, but across the organization. They trust us, we trust them. They know if we're going to be the spokespeople, they vet everything through us and approach things that way as well. Some of the things we had to think about when this was apparent it was going to be a reality were things that we had thought about in the past, but there were some obstacles this time around. One of the main things we had to think about was, where's the media going to gather? We have to have a place that is large enough to accommodate satellite trucks, so those satellite trucks have a view of the sky so they can send their signals out, places where they can write their stories, places where we can have a news conference that gives them a room to operate, where multiple cameras can be allowed to enter, because we've had news conferences in the past where we have 3 or 4 local TV stations. We knew we would have a lot more than this, so we'd have a large facility. We had to have a good view of the campus because we knew national media would be coming, and we wanted to have at least some sort of backdrop for the hospital that would be something that would be pleasant to the eye and would represent us well. Another thing we had to look at was who's going to speak for the organization. We have experts on this topic. We have people who work in the biocontainment unit. We have infectious disease specialists. We have to know who are the go-to people on this, who's comfortable speaking on camera, who knows a lot about the topic, and who will be available, because having all 3 of those things is sometimes difficult, especially when these doctors are caring for the patients. So having a pass with most of these people, knowing that they've done interviews in the past, that they've been comfortable doing interviews, that they're going to say the right things and do the right things was of utmost importance, and we had those people on hand, so we were very fortunate in that regard. A lot of places may not be as lucky as we are. We may not have those people who are really confident in front of a camera. We've had a lot of experience in front of the camera. Who may be afraid of being in front of the camera. So I think it's really important to sit down with those people and talk things through with them, how it's going to go down, how the press conferences are going to happen, what kind of questions they're likely to receive, how they should respond to those questions. One of the things that I think is really important to tell your experts, whether they're comfortable on camera or not, is if they don't have the answer to the question, it's okay to say, I don't know, or I can find that answer for you later. It's better to say that than to say something that isn't factual or accurate. So sitting down with these folks and doing some dry runs could be very useful. I think it puts them at ease, it puts you at ease, because you know what they're going to say, and in the long run it would be helpful all the way around. In some ways, this was a learn-as-you-go process for us. We've had news conferences before. We've set up mult boxes for audio and know what the local media needs and what's best for them and how we provide things to them as far as content goes. We provided photos and video to them via Dropbox, which has been extremely helpful, and we've done that on a pretty regular basis. We haven't had a lot of experience doing national press conferences, and so some of the things we learned as we went on, after we maybe did one press conference or two, we learned what the national media like. So after our first press conference, we looked into establishing a call-in number. So reporters could listen to the press conference, and then we provided them with an opportunity to answer those questions at a point during the press conference or at several points. As time went on, we also discovered they like to see video, obviously. The TV stations would like to be able to have that available. So we looked at Ustream as a possible way to do that. And you can stream just an interview, or you can stream an entire press conference. So we started looking at that, and in the long run, several networks took our Ustream press conferences live and then used sound from those press conferences in the following weeks. So using the technology that's available to you, it's extremely helpful. You don't even really need much more than an iPad to do it. In our case, we used a webcam and a laptop computer to do our streaming. Our folks did live interviews with Fox that way. They did live interviews with MSNBC, with several networks via just a webcam. Another important thing we found out was we really need to work closely with public health departments, with Department of Health and Human Services in Nebraska, with the Douglas County Health Department, our local health department, even with the CDC, to make sure all of our messages line up. And before the patient even arrived, maybe a day or even 2 days before, we were already talking with those folks, figuring out what our messaging should be. If we get questions, how do we answer those questions? The Douglas County Health Department set up a hotline that was strictly for questions from people who had questions about Ebola. We worked together to find the answers for those questions, so when their experts answered the phone, they were providing the answers that were vetted by us, and we approved those answers. The good thing was we had a lot of things in place already to help handle patient number 2 and help get the word out to everyone who was interested. The most effective thing I think that we did during that time was continuing to add to our list of contacts. We have a list of contacts for Ebola media that includes radio, TV, and newspapers from across the United States and around the world. And all people had to do was say, include me on your list. I kept a running list. We made sure that the people who were interested in the story always got the updates that they were looking for in the story. So in addition to sending out regular updates to the traditional media, which came in the form of releases and sometimes even just quick notes to update them on the situation, we also paralleled that with our updates on social media and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. So we tried to, much like you try to keep your internal and external very similar, we tried to keep our traditional and social very similar. We'd send out to traditional media, and then right after that, the social media message would go out as well. We wanted to make sure that the media organizations didn't see something on social media first and then start asking about it, and then we were behind on providing the updates through traditional media releases, because we found as we went on that if bits of information perhaps got out from another source, then we were trying to play catch up to get that same information confirmed so that they could report it. Monitoring social media is something we do here all the time. It's something we're used to doing. Looking at our Facebook page, we use Hootsuite to monitor our Twitter accounts. We use Google Alerts to see where our name appears. We have some services we subscribe to see where we pop up in local and national media. So it's something we're used to. It's just the volume gets a lot bigger when you're talking about an event like this. I think we're comfortable getting on other organization's Facebook page locally and seeing what the conversation's looking like. If we feel like the facts are out there, and often that's what we found this time around. We had some pretty educated people, at least locally, who knew this wasn't as scary as a lot of people led them to believe. So we had that message already taken care of by members of the public, we didn't need to jump in. But sometimes if our voice isn't out there, if the facts aren't out there, we'll readily jump in on Facebook and provide the facts to those people. On Twitter, it's somewhat different. You see people who make comments, and you have to kind of look at these people and see what their background is. Do they have a lot of followers? Do they have a lot of gravitas? Or are they just someone who is just literally tweeting out here in the periphery, and someone you don't need to really concern yourselves with? You have to look at them and see if they have some kind of ulterior motive for the subject we're talking about. We found a lot of people, as far as Ebola goes, we found a lot of people who had interest in the drugs that were being used and us announcing the names of those drugs, so they in turn could benefit if they own stock in the pharmaceutical companies. So those were things we found out initially we were responding to, but then we decided that wasn't really what needed our highest level of attention. We needed to respond to questions from the public, and that's something we tried to do as frequently as we could. This wasn't my idea. I'm not sure who came up with it. I just remember we were sitting in the first press conference, and someone said, "Do we have a hashtag for this?" And I don't know if it was our senior VP or who it was, but someone said, "Hey, we need to have a hashtag for this," and we decided on Nebraska Met Ebola right there. Some of the members of the media were concerned that it was too long, but I think it worked out in the long run, because right after that and frequently throughout the course of this developing story, that hashtag has trended on Twitter. You can click on Nebraska Met Ebola and you can see everyone who's tweeted about the topic. So that was really crucial in kind of getting everyone looking in the right place. Some of the biggest things I think that we learned from this, and we're still learning, is that if you can provide content to the folks out there, it's really important, especially visuals. I cannot tell you how many people ask for photos of our unit, for video of our unit, file video of the unit. So we were always able to do that because before this event even started, we had photos in our Dropbox account, we had videos in the Dropbox account that we could do nothing more than click on the links, and in either bulk email or in singular emails, we could send out that information straight to them and give them the information they were looking for very quickly. And our response we got from that was actually pretty astounding. We had a lot of media members who were pretty grateful that we were able to give them the photos and the video that quickly, because they had something to show their viewers right away. Being open with them, sitting down with them, being able to have face-to-face conversations with them on a daily basis, and asking them, what do you want to share today? What kind of information do you want to get out there about how your loved one is doing? Are they improving? What they have for breakfast? It's just crazy stuff like that, if we could just get a few of those bits of information out there, and then the families were comfortable with us kind of being their spokespeople too, then it seemed to flow a lot better. You want to balance what you can share with the media with what the family wants shared. And fortunately, in both of our cases, we had very open patients and families. They were comfortable with sharing a decent amount of information, photos of Dr. Sacra in his Huskers t-shirt that the doctor gave them, or information that he ate a Runza sandwich. Just stuff like that the media just really loved. And we were fortunate they were comfortable with us doing that. It was extremely helpful for me to virtually run my office out of the incident command for the biocontainment unit. Our incident command was in a conference room in a hallway across from the biocontainment unit. First time around, I tried to kind of be in my office and at other points, and it worked, but I don't know how I came upon this discovery, but a little bit later, when the second patient arrived, I decided just to take my laptop and make sure I had all the resources I need and I could sit inside incident command. The nurses would come in there and talk at lunch. The nursing director for the unit was there. The doctors would come in and out. So if you needed to do interviews with them, you could just ask them, or if you had a question, you could just ask them rather than emailing or calling them. So if you were right there on site of incident command, it made my job a whole lot easier. That really relates to the organization as a whole and our belief that we really should be as transparent as possible in the information we're sharing. We've always thought here, as long as I've been here, that we need to make sure the information is out there before people start asking for it. If we know of a situation and we know that situation is likely to become public, which almost, because of social media and camera phones and things along those lines, almost everything is, we're out in front of the message. We are making sure the answers to the questions are ready if those questions are asked. And being able to sit inside the incident command and have the doctors there trusting us to share the appropriate bits of information, and having folks like our nursing director there who is a wealth of information to answer questions is incredibly helpful. And without them trusting us and understanding how important it is to have that information out there, we couldn't have functioned as efficiently as we did.